Hey, AU fam. So, first TIFF screening was The Eyes of Ghana. And I gotta tell you, family, this movie was everything. Getting to see historical information about Kwame Nkrumah, who I love to refer to as the founding father of Ghana, was beyond. And as a Ghanaian, it was a proud, proud moment for me. Here are some highlights from the cast, the producers, the directors. It was just everything. Take a look, and I hope you enjoy it, and I will keep it coming.
And next, I want to bring out from Higher Ground, the company that Barack Michelle Obama run, Ethan Lewis. The cinematographer on this film, Brandon Summerholder. We have two people visiting us from Ghana who just made the trip this week. First is the journalist who first introduced Ben to Chris Hesse, Justice Baidu. Finally, met her on screen, Anita Afonu. Can we pass the microphone to Anita, because I'd like to ask her the first question. Anita told me, in the words of Kwame Nkrumah, no difficult questions, please. So are you a communist, Anita? No, you don't have to answer that. Tell us what it feels like to watch this film with an audience for the first time.
It's been... I feel really relieved because we have watched it so many times, over the last few months editing. So to be able to sit in here and gauge everybody's reaction to it and just the energy in the room. I'm grateful to see all of you here, and I'm happy. I'm genuinely just happy to be here and to experience this.
Justice, you were the person who introduced Ben to Chris in the first place. Can you tell us a little more about the circumstances of that introduction?
So if anybody had said that simple conversation that happened in the trotro in Accra, the small buses we traveled in, was going to end up on one of the biggest film festivals in the world, I would have said it would be a joke. But about 10 years ago, I went to do my master's program in documentary filmmaking, and we had been asked in the class to share a documentary film about an important person from the countries where we're coming from. And when it got to my turn, I didn't know of any film from Ghana. And so when I was speaking with my professor after the class, I told him that if any time in my life I was ever able to be involved in a film about someone like Kwame Nkrumah, it would be one of the biggest achievements in my career and in my life. I think today is that day, and I feel very emotional about it. And I want to say, from the deepest part of my heart, my gratitude to Ben for making this possible, and for everybody at Breakwater and all of you for coming and sharing the story of Reverend Hesse and Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Thank you very much.
Adwoa, when this project came to you to be a producer on it, tell me what your thoughts were.
Whoa. Well, first it was just a conversation with Ben and I. He was like, I've met this man, and he's really wonderful. He has a story to tell. And then as we dug further into it, it felt like a homecoming in a lot of ways. You know, I've always grown up with parents who were very earnest in talking about their lives in Ghana and raising my sisters and I with the cultures and customs that they grew up with. And so to now be on a main stage like this where their history is being reflected in this way and being understood, you know, I think we're very aware that we're entering into a conversation around African films or films about Africans that is limited, as Chris Hesse says. And so I'm just excited that this film can be an expansive view and hopefully gets people from 0 to 1 in terms of understanding and knowing and being curious about Kwame Nkrumah.
Ben, I think there are a couple other people in the audience worth noting. Do you want to call them out for us?
Yes, actually, we have in the audience today 2 of Chris Hesse's children, Michael and Rebecca. Are you here? Yes. Can you stand, please? All the way from Accra. There they are. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
So Ben, as I said in the introduction, you know, you've made a career out of focusing on extraordinary lives whose stories haven't really been exposed the way they should be. What made you, feel like this was your next story to tell? And can you talk about, the team you had to build to help tell it?
Yeah. I was in Accra making a film with UNICEF in the summer of 2021, in the middle of COVID. UNICEF was vaccinating, I think, 2.2 billion people all around the world. And we were in the Trotro, Justice and I, and Brandon. And we passed by this unusual building, and I asked, what is that building? And Justice said, oh, that's the mausoleum for Kwame Nkrumah. And I said, in a question that would change the course of, bring me here today, who is Kwame Nkrumah? And every Ghanaian in the van turned around and looked at me. The van swerved off, And I said, I'm sorry, and they told me the story, which you just saw. And I said, is there anyone still alive who knew Kwame Nkrumah, who might have known him? They said, Justice said, actually, he loved movies. And he built a whole film industry, and he made thousands of films, and he had a personal cinematographer, Chris Hesse. He's a reverend now. He's 90 years old. He lives down that road there. I said, let's go down there. And I met Chris, and you see, he's the most charming, he's just such a natural storyteller. And Brandon and I looked at each other and said, hey, would you mind if we interviewed you? I go, sure, yeah, no problem. And that was the beginning. And to be honest, the film has taken a life of its own. The spirit of Chris's mission that captured Anita, that captured all of us, that brought us here, that is at the heart of this. So the job of directing was little more than protecting Chris's mission, to have these films digitized and to spread this story. And I have never made a film that has been more collaborative. I mean, there are so many sequences of this movie. I was sitting there watching, the whole thing pass, that, that was the contribution of this person, that was the contribution of that person. And it was a glorious experience making this movie together, and a real coalition between Canadian filmmakers, American filmmakers, Ghanaian filmmakers, and just a beautiful highlight of my life. Yeah.
Let me pass the microphone to Brandon. As the cinematographer on this, who had been on this journey from the very beginning of it, can you talk about some of the choices you made? I mean, you really beautifully conduct these interviews and letting Chris Hesse's face and Anita's face fill the screen. Can you talk more about your approach?
Yeah, I mean, Ben has a particular style of interview that we love shooting. We kind of, there's like interview docs, and then there's kind of a breakwater doc, and we don't think of them as the same because the people's faces tell quite a story as they're telling their story. So, I mean, that this film, it's evident in Chris as he's relaying his life, and we had 2 separate interviews for that. But, you know, there was a lot of shooting and a lot of just like being in the world with Anita and, you know, her being a filmmaker herself. There was so much collaboration there in terms of ideas and, you know, just her being okay with us being around, and yeah, we spent a lot of time together, and then for the end of the movie, we wanted to do something big, and so we collaborated with IMAX. A few of the people are here.
Canadian company, IMAX. Yeah.
And they graciously lent us a camera to shoot that finale sequence because, you know, it's such a beautiful story of film and the power of film, and we thought, what's the best imaging format in the world? And it's IMAX. It's 65 millimeter, 15 per film. And so we brought some to Ghana, and we got to shoot Chris Hesse on it, and it was, yeah, a major highlight. And I think just another example of the collaboration. Everybody was banding together to, you know, Chris Hesse put his eye on the eyepiece, and I think 80 cameras went up to take a picture, a BTS photo of this. You know, it was a special moment. So yeah, it was a special project.
Ethan, from your role at Higher Ground, can you talk about what attracted your team to this film?
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, Tom, thank you for having us here. This is an incredible spotlight, an incredible story, and I think happy TIFF. I'm going to get that going. I'm going to get TIFF going, don't worry. But, you know, I think that, you know, part of the reason that I got into this business, and I think the Higher Ground exists, is to have the opportunity to shine a light on, you know, figures that have the risk of being forgotten, moments in history that have the risk of being forgotten. And I think that this is a perfect example of that, right? And I think that, you know, Ben, and working with him, and he brought this project, we met Ben about 2 years ago, and he told us about this. And seeing the work that Ben has done, and we had the chance to work with Ben on another project called The Turnaround in between this and this moment. And it was clear that that is Ben's gift. It is to find, as you have, you know, so articulately stated, is to find people in places that could easily have been forgotten, and bring them to the light in an accessible way, right? That audiences can approach, understand, and digest. And so I think that in this moment in history that we're living in, where, you know, history is being erased right before our eyes, capturing and saving and preserving these histories and seeing the story of Africa in this way, that I think, you know, Africa is a place I think many people don't understand. And I think what Ben and the team here have done is given us a gift to see Africa in a new light, and see the agency that they had over their story and where they are in history now and in the place in the world now, which is incredible. So that was a big part of why we wanted to be part of this film.
Yes, microphone to Anita. You know, Anita, this film is doing 2 things at once. It's showing us a history of cinema in Ghana, but it's also showing us a future that cinema can be in Ghana, with all these young people, including yourself, who have a passion for filmmaking. And I wonder if you can tell us more about your generation of filmmakers, you know, what you're trying to do, what are the things that you face as challenges, and what are the hopes you have?
So, like I said in the film, I went through 4 years of film school with almost no reference of the films that were made by the first generation filmmakers in my country. But look, I studied extensive classic Hollywood. I wrote papers on, you know, Hollywood cinema, Indian cinema, but nothing about Ghanaian cinema. And there's something in Ghana we say sankofa, which means go back and fetch, which in this analogy I would say having some sort of reference in order to inspire you as a filmmaker. And there's also no school of thought surrounding that area. Like when you learn about French cinema, there's the French New Wave, there's, you know, Italian Neorealism, but there was nothing like that for me. So I didn't have any kind of reference. So having the opportunity to get to know Chris Hesse and get to know all of this, it is such an inspiration, but it's still not much for us. And in my country, I wouldn't say we have a a viable film industry, but we're trying. The few of us that are trying to make films, that are trying to screen films in some film festivals, and I, for one, having the opportunity to be here, to see all you beautiful people, I feel like it's a small step. And I hope that in some way I too am an inspiration for other people. So I am essentially building my own style and trying to figure out what my identity is in the way I make my films. And I hope that in the next decade or so, other, those coming after me, like those we saw on the screen, are able to also find that. And Chris Hesse is perhaps that person for all of us in some way, yeah.
Justice, I wonder if you can talk about, what it means that this archive exists over 300 hours, we read at the end that have still yet to be seen. I wonder if you can elaborate what it means for you to see the images that you have seen from Chris Hesse's work and the curiosity you have to see what still remains in the archives.
It feels really surreal. I think that the very first time when we did the Rex showing, nearly everybody around me had tears, seeing these, listening again. I mean, these voices of Nkrumah are voices that if you've grown up in Ghana, you are used to and everything. But the way in which that Ben and the team put it in this film sort of brought back memories that build some sort of hope and some sort of energy in this generation of Ghanaians that we have. And coming to your question about what these archives means, I, working as a journalist, one of the things that I've struggled with is having access to material about the history of our country. Because when I see stories that are done on the BBC, on CNN, and big networks around the world, journalists are easily able to access material about subjects that they are working around, about things that are happening in their country. And it's always been difficult working as a journalist, having some of these materials. And so the very first time that I got to know that Ghana actually has something of our past anywhere was having the opportunity to be on this film. And I think that if we put this film out, the world gets to know, Ghanaians get to know. Many people like me who work in journalism, in academia, in several other places would find a lot of relief just seeing this, and also learning the sort of work that people like Reverend Hesse has done to sort of get our government to work on these and make them accessible, not just to people in general, but everyone. And like Anita is saying, all of these young people who are looking at this film, who should be able to reference some of these material, because one of the things that we always say, not just in Ghana, but in many parts of Africa, is like young people wanting to learn about our past, wanting to learn about our story, would have to face the same challenge that Nkrumah was trying to address in 1950, which is that they have to read foreign material, they have to look at material that is being produced by other people. Now, we would have the opportunity to be able to see our history as captured by people like Reverend Hesse, as inspired by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. So yes, this is a lot for me and for, I think, every other Ghanaian.
Ben, we have to wrap up, but I want to give you the last words. This is the first audience in the world to see the Eyes of Ghana. Where does it go from here?
Great question. We're in 14 film festivals all around the world. This fall, we're very grateful for that. This is the beginning of that. And hopefully we can bring it to every eye who wants to see the Eyes of Ghana, in Africa, across the world. It's so important that it's an urgent thing for a couple of reasons. One, because film, not just Ghana's archive, but the celluloid is rapidly deteriorating. We have to save it. We have to step in and act now before images like this are lost forever. It's essential. And the other thing is we live in a world where people are censored. They're not allowed to speak. They're not allowed to film. They're not allowed to show their films. Right now, our producer, Moses Bwayo, is missing because he can't leave the United States because he's on political asylum because of the film he made, Bobby Wine, the People's President. He can't leave. Can't be here because of that. So this is the essence of our mission here. Yes, to digitize this essential archive, but also during this very difficult time in our industry to remind folks that if Chris Hesse can do what he did in his time, we can do amazing things in our time. And we need to keep on filming. That's what we need to do. So spread the word. Do us a favor, spread the word of the eyes of Ghana. We'll be bringing it all around the world. Thank you.
And getting to speak with producer Anita Afonu was everything. And also getting to meet journalist Justice Bedu was everything. It's an amazing movie. It's been picked up by 14 other festivals, and it's worth seeing. The Eyes of Ghana, executive produced by Barack and Michelle Obama. And you saw the other cast and crew. Hopefully it will hit a streaming platform soon so the world can see it. It's a beautiful, beautiful film. Let me know what you think. See you soon.